Yeah. So admin, you could move to the second slide. Okay, let's start, people. We'll start with the agricultural income, its scope, and the eliminations or the exemptions that are made under this. So, under the Income Tax Act, agricultural income includes rent or income from an agricultural land, earnings from agricultural activities, and income from buildings essential for carrying out agriculture. Now, this income is exempted under the Income Tax Act, and there are certain conditions that must be met for the income to qualify for exemption. Okay, so let's understand first of all what is agricultural income. As per the provisions of the Income Tax Act, agricultural land includes revenue from the agricultural land and building and income from the activities. So we can broadly classify this into three categories. First is rent or revenue earned from agricultural land situated in India. Second is income from agricultural land arising from primary agricultural activities and the sale of agricultural produce. And third is the income from building required for agricultural operations. Okay, I'll send this to you in the chat box as well. If you want to note it down, you can note it down somewhere. So just to make it more concise, what I've written in the PPT, it states that it refers to revenue generated from agricultural activities, including farming, cultivation, and related operations. Admin, you could go to the third slide. Hello,
Yes,
Admin, are
ma'am.
you there? You could go to the third slide. Yeah. So see, the three main components that I have mentioned over here mentions rent from agricultural land, income from agricultural operations, and sale of agricultural produce. Now let's understand that what are these agricultural activities and sale of agricultural produce. These there are four major topics that are to be covered inside this one. First is basic operations, cultivation of the land and consequently tilling of the land, sowing of seeds, planting, and all such operations that require human skill and effort directly on the land. In short, खेती बाड़ी जो भी आपके लैंड पे हो रही है इस बेसिक ऑपरेशन ये इसके अंडर आएगा. Second is subsequent operations carried out for growth and preservation of the produce like weeding, digging soil around the crops grown, etc. Also, those operations which would make the produce fit for use in the market, like tending, pruning, cutting, harvesting, etc. इसका मतलब होता है कि आपकी जो बेसिक ऑपरेशंस है जिससे हमारी लैंड को हम अच्छा रखते हैं एंड वो आगे के काम के लिए यूज हो. That is what it is referring to as. I have mentioned that in the chat box as well. You may have a look over there. Third states processing the product to make it market ready. Such processes involve manual or mechanical operations that are ordinarily employed to make the produce fit for the market, and the original character of such produce is retained. Fourth one is sale of agricultural produce, where the produce does not undergo ordinary processes employed to become marketable. The income arising on sale would generally be partly agricultural, exempt income, and part of it will be non-agricultural, taxable income. We'll understand this. Please do not get confused. As we go ahead in the lecture, I'll explain you what does that mean. For now, I will put this in the chat box so that you're able to understand. Okay. Now there are two important notes to be taken note of over here. Income derived from saplings or seedlings grown in a nursery would also be considered to be agricultural income, whether or not the basic operations were carried out on the land. In the cases where the activities have only some distant relation to land, like dairy, farming, breeding, rearing of livestock, poultry farming, etc., they do not form a part of agricultural income. This one is very important, and sometimes in certain exams, this is asked in the form of MCQ as well. I'll write it over here. Okay, you may have a look. So far we have covered 4 to 5 important points. Any doubts as of now? I hope we do not have any doubts. Do we? Okay, fine. I'll go ahead with the lecture. So, income from farm building. The conditions for classifying income derived from building as agricultural income are as follows. The building should be on or in the same surrounding of the agricultural land. Also, the rent receiver or cultivator of the land by reason of his connection with the land requires the building as a house to stay or as a storehouse or uses it for these kind of situations. Either of the two conditions should be satisfied. The land is assessed by either land revenue or a local rate assessed and collected by government officers. Or if the above condition is not satisfied, the land should be a rural agricultural land. I'll put this again in the chat box. Guys, so far so good. I mean, any doubts or if anything you have, please let me know about it. Now, there are certain incomes which are known as non-agricultural incomes. These include income from pottery farming, income from beehiving, income from sale of spontaneously growing trees, income from dairy half farming, purchase of standing crop, dividend paid by a company out of its agricultural income, income of salt produced by flooding the land with seawater, royalty income from mines, income from butter and cheese making. Of course, that's also a part of
Sorry,
dairy.
please, can you repeat? Please, can you repeat what you just said? Thank you.
Okay, that is
Yeah.
income from butter and cheese making.
No, from the time that you talked of poultry and those examples, please, can you repeat?
Okay, sure, I'll do that. So, non agricultural income includes income from pottery farming, income from beehiving, income from sale of spontaneously grown trees, income from dairy farming, purchase of standing crop, dividend paid by a company out of its agricultural income, income of salt produced by flooding the land with seawater, royalty income from mines, income from butter and cheese making, receipts from TV serial shooting in farmhouse is not an agricultural income as well. Okay, am I clear?
Can you, is there a list of these activities that you just mentioned, which is there on a slide, please, which we can refer? Is
Okay,
there?
I'll
Yeah.
do one thing, I'll put it in the chat box.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that. Just a second. You have it in the chat box. Let me know if you need something else as well. Okay, fine. So these are the examples of non-agricultural income. Agricultural income, we have already discussed previously. There is something more that I would love to add to it. Income from the sale of seeds, income from sale of replanted trees, interest on capital received by a partner from a firm engaged in agricultural operations, income from growing flowers and creepers, rent received for agricultural land, and income from growing of bamboo. This also I'll put in the chat box so that you can have it. Okay, now let's understand how taxation of agricultural income is done. We will discuss about the partial integration. As discussed above, agricultural income is always exempted from income tax. However, the income tax has laid down a method to indirectly tax such income. Okay. This method or concept may be called the partial integration of agricultural income with non-agricultural income. Now, this will aim at taxing the non-agricultural income at higher rates of taxes. Okay, let's understand this. Okay, this method is also applicable to individuals, HUFs, AOPs, BOIs, and artificial judicial persons where the following conditions are met.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Ma'am, is this slide anywhere related to this? I think there's another slide which has been shown.
Oh,
The
that's
slide-
fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's not an issue. I am putting down everything in the chat box. You can take it from there.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. So these are some methods that I have referred over here. Now understand that non-agricultural income is above the basic exemption limit. So in simpler terms, the non-agricultural income should be greater than the maximum amount not chargeable to tax as per the slab rates. Thus, companies, firms, LLPs, cooperative societies, and local authorities are excluded from using this method. Okay.
Sorry, ma'am, but this is a little confusing. It's not gelling properly. Can you help, please?
Okay, sure.
There's
Um
confusion in the agricultural, non-agricultural, and what is taxable, what is not taxable in agriculture. If you could just go over it again, please.
okay, sure. I'll do that once again. Thank you for the question. Give me a second so that I can simplify this for you. Just a second. Did we understand that what are agricultural income and first of all, what are non-agricultural income? Are we clear with that part?
That is the part that needs please recap, please.
Okay. So I have already given a list to you in the chat box of what is agricultural income and what is non-agricultural income. As in what will be counted in the column of agricultural income, what will not be counted in the column of non-agricultural income. Okay. That is the list that I have given in the chat box. Now understand this thing. Clubbing of agricultural income with non-agricultural income for the computation of tax liability is known as integration of agricultural income. When to integrate? I'll simplify this for you. If agricultural income exceeds rupees 5,000 in the relevant previous year, then it has to be integrated firstly. Okay, I'll type this in the chat box as well. Rupees 5,000, first point. Okay. If non-agricultural income exceeds basic exemption limits of rupees 2 lakh or 2,50,000 or 5 lakh in the relevant previous year, then it has to be integrated. And how it will be integrated? It will be integrated as an add agricultural income with non-agricultural income. You have to calculate the tax on those things and then add agricultural income with the basic exempted limit. And then your tax would be calculated. Okay, so this is how we do it. And this is a very simple process, not something to be, think about it. I will give you an example. It will make it more clear for you. Okay, here we go. Income from other sources is rupees 7 lakhs. Okay, suppose I am a person who has got an agricultural land and I also have a net agricultural income which is rupees 2 lakhs rupees, and my income from salary is 7 lakhs rupees. Now the calculation of agricultural relief and net tax payable under the old tax regime is as follows. Total taxes on rupees 9 lakh, which we already discussed about. You have to add both the incomes, right? Agricultural income and non-agricultural income, which will make it 9 lakhs. Okay. I hope you have understood. We have added 7 lakhs and 2 lakhs, which has made it 9 lakhs plus net agricultural income. Okay. Total taxes on rupees 4,50,000, which is basic exemption limit plus net agricultural income, is equal to rupees 10,000. Before education says that is rupees 4%. Net tax payable shall be rupees 82,500. This is just for your understanding. You don't have to get into the calculations. You won't be asked this. Just understand the exemption, the limits, and what is included under agricultural income and what is not included under agricultural income. That is for you to understand. Okay, now let's understand how and which ITR is to be filed for agricultural income. Please pay attention to this. Agricultural income is to be shown under the column of agricultural income in ITR 1. But ITR 1 applies only when the agricultural income is up to rupees 5,000. In case it exceeds the limit of rupees 5,000, ITR 2 must be filed. Are we clear with this thing? This is something important. Agricultural income is to be shown under the column of agricultural income in ITR 1. But ITR 1 applies only when the agricultural income is up to rupees 5,000. In case it exceeds the limit of rupees 5,000, ITR 2 must be filed. Okay, I hope I am clear with this. Very simple. Then there is this tax benefit under section 54B, which provides relief of capital gains to taxpayers who sell their agricultural land and acquire another agricultural land from the sale proceeds. So the conditions for claiming the benefit under section 54B are: the taxpayer should be an individual or HUF. The asset transferred should be agricultural land, whether a long-term or a short-term capital asset. The exemption amount under section 54B is the lower of the following: amount of capital gains arising on transfer of agricultural land and investment in a new agricultural land, or the amount deposited in the capital gains deposits account scheme. Okay, I have a question for all of you. Let's see if you can answer this. It's an exercise for you. How do I put it in? Okay, I'll tell it verbally. I'm a resident of India and I have earned agricultural income from a land situated in Nepal. Is it exempted from tax? If anyone would love to answer this question, it's a very simple question. A very simple answer as well is demanded from this thing. But if you could try on. I am a resident of India and I have earned agricultural income from a land situated in Nepal. Is it exempted from tax? Anyone to answer the question? We have Rita, SP, Aditi. Oh, Aditi, hi. Amit, Balagopal Krishnan, Surudisha, Tarun Batra. Anyone to answer this? It's pretty simple. I'm expecting an answer from you. Take 1 minute time. Understand the question again. Apply your logic. Apply what we have learned up till now. And then tell me. I need more answers. I'm waiting for 2 more replies. Okay, so the answer is no. Only agricultural income from land situated in India is exempted from tax. Understand this. Let's understand. I am working in India. I have a land in Nepal. Okay, and it's an agricultural land. How is the government going to exempt the tax from it? It will not do that. This rule applies only to the land situated in India. Okay, it is for us Indians. Now, this rule is also, something very basic, and I appreciate this rule because this law or this section particularly, because this helps in promoting agriculture. Farmers kitna kamate hain? दे डू नॉट अर्न मच, राइट? सो अगर वो टैक्स पे करने लग जाएंगे तो उनके पास कितना बचेगा? यू गो एंड आस्क टू एनी अदर फार्मर, उनके पास ज्यादा इनकम नहीं होती है, तो इफ दे स्टार्ट पेइंग टैक्स तो एग्रीकल्चर इंडिया में से खत्म हो जाएगा, प्रमोशन नहीं रहेगा उसका. दैट इज द रीजन वी हैव सच लॉस, सो एज टू प्रमोट दिस पर्टिकुलर एक्टिविटी. एंड गिवन दैट वी आर समवन जिसका पूरा हिस्ट्री एग्रीकल्चर पे बेस्ड आउट है, we cannot leave farming. This is something that is in our blood and our roots, and it is where we get our food from, right? Okay, now give me one simple answer. What if agriculture operations are carried out on an urban land? This is a very good question, and मैंने ये अभी lecture में cover up भी किया है. एक point मेरा ये था. What if agricultural operations are carried out on urban land? Do you understand that? इसका क्या वो होगा? I'm waiting for the answers. Okay, I need more answers. It's a very good exercise actually. इससे मेरे को पता चलेगा if you guys are able to grasp the concept or not. Okay, now tell me one thing. You have an agricultural land. You have it in the middle of the city, or you may have it in the outer corner of the city. Does it really matter where it is located? I mean, as far as I have studied, the location really does not matter. So even if it's on an urban land, that is not a matter of concern. Agricultural land आपकी agricultural land ही रहेगी. वो फिर चाहे रूरल एरिया में हो चाहे अर्बन एरिया में हो. Okay, a very simple question. This is the reason I'm bringing up such questions, so that I can understand कि आप लोगों को कहाँ तक समझ में आ रहा है. Is income from animal husbandry tax free? It is not tax free. Let me explain you that. It is actually not tax free. And is agricultural income fully exempted from income tax? Yes, agricultural income is fully exempted from tax, provided it is derived from agricultural activities and conducted on land situated in India. Okay, now this should involve the income from the cultivation of crops, sale of livestock, and other agricultural produce. We have covered up this topic, agricultural income and its tax treatment. Okay, we are done with this one. Now, hi admin, are you there? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Could you please play the first PPT that I have shared? We'll start with another topic, which is scope of total income. Total income हमने कल डिस्कस किया था, आज हम उसका स्कोप डिस्कस करेंगे. ठीक है.
मैम, अगर किसी की अर्बन, अभी आपने अर्बन की बात की, अर्बन एरिया में, तो अर्बन एरिया में अगर किसी ने लैंड लेके उसको फार्म हाउस बना रखा है और वहां से इनकम कर रहा है, तो क्या वो भी टैक्स से एग्जेम्प्टेड होगी? क्योंकि बिकॉज वो तो अपने प्रॉफिट के लिए ले रहा है.
नहीं
तो
नहीं, टैक्स
लिए तो-
एग्जेम्प्टेड नहीं होगी. हमने पता है एक लिस्ट अभी डिस्कस की थी कि आपके लैंड पे कौन सी एग्रीकल्चरल एक्टिविटीज काउंट होंगी और कौन सी नहीं होंगी. अगर आपके पास एक फार्म हाउस भी है और आप उस पे शूटिंग करवा रहे हैं, तो दैट विल नॉट बी काउंटेड एज समथिंग जहाँ पे आपका टैक्स एग्जेम्प्ट हो जाएगा. वो तो आपके प्रॉफिट के लिए है ना, उस पे से
शूटिंग नहीं
टैक्स.
करवा रहा है, अगर शूटिंग नहीं करवा रहा है, अगर वो सिर्फ एग्रीकल्चर जैसे उस पे क्रॉप्स ग्रोन कर रहे हैं, लेकिन वो सिर्फ अपने बेनिफिट के लिए, वो तो उनका पर्सनल हुआ, वो मास के लिए या किसी
doesn't matter. It will be levied under this tax. वो नहीं बचेगा फिर.
तो टैक्सेबल होगा ना ये?
टैक्सेबल होगा।
ओके।
Yeah.
वो थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजन, तो अभी आपने बताया अर्बन एरिया में लैंड हो या रूरल एरिया में हो, दोनों में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, तो
हाँ,
वो
सी अब जैसे आप ये एग्जांपल लेके चलिए, मेरे पास एक लैंड है, ठीक है, मैं अभी
Okay.
सपोज दिल्ली में रह रही हूँ, दिल्ली के बीचों बीच मेरे पास लैंड है। हाउ डज इट मैटर वो रूरल एरिया में है कि नहीं है? मेरा गांव जहाँ है, कैसे
Okay.
मैटर करता है मेरी लैंड उस गांव में है कि दिल्ली में है? अगर मैं उसको एग्रीकल्चरल पर्पस के लिए यूज कर रही हूँ, उस पे क्रॉप्स, कल्टीवेशन, सीडलिंग, सैपलिंग्स, ये सब हो रहा है, हाउ डज इट मैटर वो दिल्ली में है कि मेरे गांव में है? काम
Okay.
तो वही हो रहा है ना मेरा, अर्बन लैंड पे हो या रूरल लैंड पे हो, काम से मतलब है ना उनको कि आप क्या काम करवा रहे हैं उस पे।
Okay.
ठीक है, तो दैट इज हाउ इट फंक्शंस। अब जैसे मैं एक लॉयर हूँ, सामने वाला एक सीए है, ठीक है, हम दोनों का अलग अलग प्रोफेशन है, बट सैलरी के बेसिस पे टैक्स तो उतना ही कटेगा ना जितना कटना चाहिए। हाउ डज इट मैटर कि मैं लॉयर हूं और वो सीए है? टैक्स तो कटना ही है जितना स्लैब के अंडर आएगा।
Fine.
ठीक है, तो ऐसे उसको थोड़ा सा एनालॉजी लगा के यू कैन कंपेयर।
Okay. फिर मैम ये डिफरेंशिएट कैसे करेंगे हम कि फार्म हाउस की इनकम है और ये एग्रीकल्चर इनकम है, ये एग्रीकल्चर पर्पस के लिए यूज कर रहे हैं और वो फार्म हाउस की इनकम है वो अपने ओन पर्पस के लिए यूज कर रहे हैं, ये डिफरेंशिएशन कैसे होता है?
ये तो
अगर
आपके
हम टैक्स
ऑफिसर्स डिसाइड करेंगे ना। आप जब आईटीआर फाइल कर रहे होते हैं तो आप उसको किस हेड के अंदर फाइल कर रहे हैं, ये ऑफिसर्स उस टाइम पे डिसाइड करेंगे।
ओके,
ठीक है,
फाइन।
या okay, fine guys, thank you for the questions. We will now be starting with scope of total income. Total income हमने कल पढ़ा हुआ था, ठीक है। आज हम scope of total income करेंगे, which is a pretty easy subject as well. So ये थोड़ा सा कभी कभी कुछ कुछ लोगों के लिए कंफ्यूजिंग भी होता है, बट डू नॉट वरी, इट्स प्रिटी इजी। आई विल टेक इट अप एंड बीच बीच में हम एक दो एग्जाम्पल लेके भी समझेंगे हाउ इट इज डन। एंड तो कल हमने रेसिडेंशियल एंड स्कोप ऑफ टोटल इनकम करना था, बट ड्यू टू पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ टाइम वी कुड नॉट कंप्लीट स्कोप ऑफ टोटल इनकम। रेसिडेंशियल स्टेटस हमने सेक्शन 6 में कवर अप किया हुआ है, इंडिविजुअल और HUF एंड फर्म, LLP, AOP, BOI, कंपनी एक्सेट्रा। सॉरी, इंडिविजुअल और HUF में हमने रेसिडेंट एंड ordinarily resident but not ordinarily resident, deemed resident which is individual, non resident, ये सब कवर किया था। ठीक है, आज स्कोप ऑफ टोटल इनकम में हम लोग कवर अप करेंगे रेसिडेंट एंड ऑर्डिनरीली रेसिडेंट, रेसिडेंट एंड नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट एंड नॉन रेसिडेंट। ये तीन मेजर हमारे वो रहेंगे। ठीक है, मेरे को कोई बताएगा आपके हिसाब से इनकम क्या होता है? हाउ डू यू डिफाइन इनकम? I would love to. आप exact definition मत दो. Tell me something that helps you explain what is income. आपके हिसाब से टोटल इनकम क्या होना चाहिए? I'll give you a minute's time to think about it. अपना definition frame करो. If you're not comfortable speaking about it, then you can post it in the chat box as well. I'll correct it, not an issue. सही हो ये बिल्कुल जरूरी नहीं है. If you feel कि आपके हिसाब से सही है, we'll do it. Any definition of total income? Come on, people, I'm waiting for your answers. Rita, that is not tax exempt. Okay. It is genuinely derived from agricultural activity, so it will not be tax exempt. Salary plus rental plus dividend. Okay, Tarun, very nice answer. Very good answer. मैंने expect नहीं किया था किसी से भी answer, but good, you have come up with something. Okay, guys, let's start with scope of total income. Section 5 provides the scope of total income in terms of the residential status of the assessee, because the incidence of tax on any person depends upon his residential status in India. Okay. So the scope of total income of an assessee depends upon the following three important considerations: the residential status of the assessee, the place of accrual or receipt or income, whether actual or deemed, and the point of time at which the income had accrued to or was received by or on behalf of the assessee. Okay. Admin, could you please play the fifth slide? Yeah, determinants of tax liability. So over here, मैंने तीन, Abhishek has written income from salary, income from house property, income from, yes, that is what defines total income. Very good. मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है तुम लोग Google यूज नहीं करके आ रहे हो. I trust you guys with these things, क्योंकि जब मैं उस साइड पे थी, on the other side of the field, मुझे ये नहीं पता था. Honestly, मुझे पढ़ने के बाद पता चला what is total income. Nevertheless, very good answers. I am really happy and I appreciate your genuine efforts. So these are there are three determinants of taxability. Okay. First is your residential status. It is very important to assess the residential status of the assessee. कि उसका status क्या है? वो ordinarily citizen है, वो non-ordinarily है, क्या है? Place of accrual or receipt or income, whether actual or deemed, and the point of time at which the income had accrued to or was received by on behalf of the assessee. The ambit of total income of the three classes of assessee would be as follows. पहला है resident and non-ordinary resident, ROR. दूसरा is RNOR, which is resident but non-ordinarily resident. And third is your non-resident. Okay. It is a very easy thing to understand. Let's start with the resident one, resident and ordinarily resident. Okay. So the law speaks as this way: provided that in the case of a person who is RNOR in India, within the meaning of section 6, clause 6, the income which accrues or arises to him outside India shall not be so included unless it is derived from business controlled in or a profession set up in India. So NOR individuals are taxed similarly to ROR with one key exemption, which is global income. Global income is taxable only if it is derived from a business controlled in India or a profession or vocation set up in India. Foreign income not connected to such business profession is not taxable in India. Okay, I have mentioned this in the chat box. You can always keep referring to it. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So always remember कि जो हमारे non-resident tax implications जो हैं, they are always taxed only on income earned or received in India, narrowing their tax liability or obligations significantly. Okay. That is the reason हम हमेशा बोलते हैं कि आपको पहले person का residency assess करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, that is a main reason why it is. Now I'll explain you what is accrues, arises or is received. These three are the main words and इनमें हमेशा काफी हद तक confusion रहता है. ठीक है. Okay. Income is said to be received when it reaches to the assessee. Income is said to accrue or arise when the right to receive the income becomes vested in the assessee. And there are some cases that I have noted down. Ashok Bhai, Chiman Bhai, 56 IDR 42 Supreme Court case. The basic concept is that the assessee must have acquired the right to receive the income. There must be a debt owed to him by somebody. Whether someone is under a debt that he has to pay to the other person. Okay. So there is a no runway out wala system ki agar nahi diya to chalega. But that is how it works. Now, ROR, resident and ordinarily resident. The total income of an ROR would under Section 5, subclause 1, consist of income received or deemed to be received in India during the previous year. हम ही हैं सॉरी हम ही हैं ROR, ठीक है. हम अगर वर्क कर रहे हैं, वी आर वर्किंग इन अ कंपनी, वी आर एम्प्लॉयड विद समवन, वी विल गेट सम मनी टू वर्क फॉर देम, राइट? वी आर द वंस हु आर RORs. हमें ही ROR काउंट किया जाता है. Income which accrues or arises or is deemed to accrue or arise in India during the previous year, and income which accrues or arises outside India, even if it is not received or brought into India during the previous year. In simpler terms, an ROR has to pay tax on the total income accrued or deemed to accrue, received or deemed to be received in or outside India during the relevant previous year. RNOR, again, I've already explained. Now let's move to non-resident. A non-resident's total income under Section 5, Clause 2 includes income received or deemed to be received in India in the previous year, and income which accrues or arises or is deemed to accrue or arise in India during the previous year. Always note this down. All assessees, whether the resident or not, are chargeable to tax in respect of the income accrued, arisen, received, or deemed to accrue, arise, or to be received in India. Whereas a resident alone, resident and ordinary resident in the case of individuals and HUF is chargeable to tax in respect of income which accrues or arises outside India. Okay, this is something very logical as well. अगर आप थोड़ा logic लगा के भी पढ़ेंगे तो the definition actually satisfies the basic demand of the subject. Section 5 starts with subject to the provisions of this act. Generally speaking, the income cannot be taxed unless it falls within Section 5. Always remember Section 5, very important. Further, it is not necessarily be taxed because it falls within this section. The other section may operate to save from taxation, which is within the purview of this section. From whatever source derived, ये भी एक definition में था. Now, whatever source derived, these words indicate that if the conditions regarding accruing, arising, or receipt are set out in this section are satisfied, the income, profit, or gain will not escape by reason of any quality or circumstances of the source. Guys, I hope side by side आप लोग ये भी check कर रहे हैं chat box. That will be of great help. I am putting down a question. Read the question and अपने logic के हिसाब से अब तक आपको जो भी समझ में आया उसके हिसाब से आंसर करो. Again, not necessarily आंसर आपका सही हो, गलत होगा कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. We will work on it, but answer it. Admin, could you please move to the slide number 9? Hello. Yeah, slide number 9. This slide will help you to answer this question. I'll give you 2 more minutes to think about it. And अगर आप लोग of course mic पे नहीं बोल पा रहे हो, please put down your answers in the chat box. I do not see any answers. Is it a tough one? थोड़ा tough हो गया क्या question? Okay, 1 more minute. I'll put in the answer then. काफी लॉजिकल क्वेश्चन है. आई अंडरस्टैंड. अभी थोड़ा सा आंसर करना शायद टफ भी हो सकता है. इट्स ओके, नॉट एन इशू विद इट. Taxable, very good. Yes, it is taxable because Mr. X is the resident of India and he spent spent. He spent more than, you have to use past form of spend. More than 6 months as a resident in India, only go for vacation for some time. Yes. He will be counted as a ROR. Doesn't matter where he's working or not. And for the second question, also I'll so the taxability will not change. The Income Tax Act leaves global income of a resident irrespective of a profession. Whether Mr. X is a practicing CA or not, the consultancy income earned abroad will still stay taxable in India under the head income from other sources or profits and gains of business or profession, depending on the nature of the activity. Okay? Okay. Then income deemed to or accrue or arise in India. Section 9, Clause 1 lists income deemed to or accrue arise in India under clauses 1 to 7. Now, this is just a minute. Key sources income deemed to arise in India if it arises through business connection in India, property in India, asset or source of income in India, and transfer of capital assets situated in India. Okay. Income not deemed to or accrue or arise in India, clause 1 specific cases, partial operations outside India, purchase for export, news agencies and publications. Film shooting in India, diamond displaying special zone, business connection. Now, what do you understand with business connection? Business connection includes business activity carried out through a person acting on behalf of a non-resident if such person habitually concludes contracts or plays principal role in conclusion of contracts for sale of property, granting usage rights, provision of services, maintains stock in India and regularly delivers goods on behalf of non-resident, secures orders, etc. Not a business connection. A very important one. When carried out through independent agents acting in ordinary course of business. That's all. I hope I'm clear with this. Business connection is not that important. Salaries. Okay. Now we are coming to the main important ingredient of income, which is salaries. Income is under the head salaries is deemed to accrue or arise in India if it is earned in India. Okay. Salaries for services rendered in India, salary for rest leave period if it is preceded and succeeded by service in India and it is a part of the employment contract. I hope I'm clear up till now, guys. Am I the only one speaking? Okay. Now understand this one thing. I wanted to clarify this. Income from property, asset or source of income in India. Any income which arises from any property, movable, immovable, tangible and intangible property would be deemed to be accrue or arise in India. Okay. That will be taxable. It won't be exempted. Income which falls under the head salaries is deemed to be accrue or arise in India if it is earned in India. Salary payable for services rendered in India would be treated as earned in India. Okay. Now, income from salaries payable by the government for services rendered outside India. This is also something which is supposed to be deemed to or accrue or arise in India. And the following conditions have to be satisfied to treat such income as deemed to accrue or arise in India. Income should be chargeable under the head salaries. The payer should be government of India. The recipient should be an Indian citizen, whether resident or non-resident in India. The services should be rendered outside India. Okay. However, allowances and prerequisite paid or allowed outside India by the government to an Indian citizen for services outside India is exempt by virtue of Section 10, Clause 7. I hope I'm making sense up till now. Then we have dividend paid by an Indian company outside India, interest, royalty. I hope everyone knows what a royalty is. Okay. And lump sum royalty not deemed to accrue arise in India. Now, the term royalty means consideration, including any lump sum consideration, but excluding any consideration which would be the income of the recipient, chargeable under the head capital gains. The transfer of all or any rights, including the granting of license in respect of any copyright, literally artistic or scientific work, including films or videotapes for use in connection with the television or tapes for use in connection with the radio broadcasting, the word royalty has to be used. Fees for technical services are deemed to be or accrued to be a part of this. Okay. Now there is this Mr. X, a resident of India. I'll put this question in the chat box. Let me understand if you have got the gist of the same thing. Mr. X is a resident of India. He was in USA in financial year 2024 to 25. By the way, this case is based out of a real case. It has eventually happened. Okay, for 5 months and earned a salary of rupees 30 lakhs. He was in India for remaining 7 months and earned salary of rupees 40 lakhs. Assume Mr. X is ROR in financial year 2024 to 25. Whether your answer would be different if Mr. X is RNOR in financial year 2024 to 25. I'll give you 3 minutes for this question. I know it's little logical and it requires a different mindset. You may go ahead and type in your answers when you are okay with it.
Ma'am, what is the question in this one?
Hmm.
And the question, I mean, the comment if I read, it is Mr. X is resident of India. He was in US for financial year 2024-25 for 5 months and so and so. And is the question, is it taxable or what is taxable or how much is taxable?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, in first case, taxable. Very good. US tax income is not taxable because it has tax bill in US only. Indian income is taxable in India, which he earned during his stay on 7 months. In second case, not taxable. The income is taxable. Good guys, I've got mixed answers. I'll put in the answer in the chat box. A pretty simple one. For both the questions I am putting in, this is for the first part and this is for the second part. The key difference is the global income. As we have already discussed, global income is a part of taxable, thing. And in case he has been receiving the income in US, then it won't be taxable. Gifts to non-residents under Section 9, Subclause 1, Subclause 8 are also taxable in India. So gift से भी कोई नहीं बच सकता ये अगर आप किसी को गिफ्ट भी कर देंगे doesn't mean it's not gonna be under the head of tax. It is going to be under the head of tax. Okay. Pension outside India is not taxable in India. Okay. Payable to person under Article 314 of the Constitution, not taxable. Income deemed to accrue arise in India is taxable even if non-resident does not have residence in India, place of business in India, business connection in India. House property, Section 22 provides a notional annual value determined in accordance with Section 23 is charged to income tax, presumably on accrual basis, although it is not in some circumstances actually per se. A very good question I'm coming up with. This is the last question for the session for today. 2 minutes of time given to you. Think about it. Put your answers in the chat box. I need 2 more answers. नो 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 यस नो जिन्होंने भी नो लिखा है अपना रीजनिंग बताओ और अगर आपने यस लिखा है व्हाई हैव यू रिटन इट व्हाट इज योर रीजनिंग ओ से गिव मी वन स्पेसिफिक रीजनिंग फॉर द सेम व्हाई हैव यू रिटन दैट if you have any reasoning I mean कुछ सोच समझ के आंसर लिखा होगा why is it that way Set off वाला भी point किसी ने लिखा है, which is a valid point. Very good. So I'll put in the answer. Understand that a resident's global income is taxable in India. A very basic statement that I've made. Okay. And ये तुम्हारे सामने भी लिखा हुआ है PPT में, global income plus foreign. Okay. Income from house property, whether in India or abroad, is computed under the head income from house property as per section 20 to 27. Set of rules, section 70, intra-head adjustment allowed. Loss from one house property can be set off against income from another house. Inter-head, subject to limits. So loss is outside India, set off is done under same head of income. So my answer was yes. Okay. Very good. SP and Aditya and everyone who has answered. Amit, Tarun, Suru. Okay, loss from Australian property can be set off against profit from Indian property because both fall under the same head. After set off, if there is a net loss, it can be carried forward for 8 years under section 71, subclause B, subject to return filing within due date. I do not expect कि आप लोग 8 साल वाला मुझे बोलते because that is something को आगे के lectures में पढ़ाया जाएगा अभी नहीं. So with this, we have covered up a major portion again. Okay. Post this tomorrow we will be taking up जो अब हमारे बच्चे हुए हैं and I hope by Friday हम काफी हद तक अपनी ये चीजें complete कर लें and then I think you will be the income tax champions. So thank you so much for joining the session. Have your dinner. You guys must be hungry. Good night. Take care. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you, admin. Thank you, team. Bye. Take care. You're welcome.